right, distributive property. Now, technically, the distributive property looks like this. If you have A times B plus C, the property says if you have something outside a parenthesis, you multiply it by each thing inside the parentheses. So we would have A times B plus A times C. That is the property. So that's the property we're using today. Now, everything we do, we like to write whatever is outside the parenthesis in the front. So just keep that in mind. You have a couple of problems on your homework today where they write it in the back. I'm just going to ask you to write it in the front. It's not any different. Okay? So we're going to go with example number 1. Jumping right on in. All right, use the distributive property. Let's say we have something like 4 parentheses x minus 5. So since you have something outside a parenthesis right next to it, the distributive property says we have to multiply everything inside that parenthesis by whatever next to it. So we're going to start with 4 times x. 4 times x is 4x. And then we have 4 times negative 5, or negative 20. I know you guys have done this many, many times, right? Yeah. Really? Okay, so let's get a couple harder ones before I, keep going. All right, so how about something that looks like this? What if I just had a negative outside of the parenthesis? Very good. So when you just have a negative sign, there is a magical, wonderful 1 that actually is there. So this is really going to be distributing a negative 1 through the parenthesis. Well, 1 is magical. It's always hanging out. So negative 1 times 2w is going to be a negative 2w. And then negative 1 times 5 is negative 5. Example number 3. Okay, what if you get one that looks like this today? Let's say you have 1 plus 5d, and then you have a 3 on the back. From the other side. Now, I personally would rather see you just write it in the front because it's the same thing. Okay? So I'm going to rewrite mine. Now, you don't absolutely have to, but it helps you stay organized when eventually we get this big long line of stuff. So I'm going to put this 3 in the front. 1 plus 5d, and now we're going to go ahead and do our distributive property. 3 times 1 is 3, and 3 times 5d, good, 15d. So here's something let's talk about. Did you guys last year talk about what order these should be written in? Okay, so let's talk about it. So let's talk about it a little bit. There's 2 different ways to write it. One, if you have different variables and a number, your variables should always go in alphabetical order. Okay? Well, we only have one variable there. If there is a term or a number that doesn't have a variable on it, it really should be written in the back. So in this case, we would want to rewrite this as 15d plus 3. Now, is it wrong this way? No. It's just the math gods prefer it this way. Okay, where you have your variables, your variable terms first, and then your number on the end. Eventually, Yeah, so you might as well just start getting in the habit when it's easy. Well, eventually in here, because it's going to be a big, long line of stuff. Yeah. So let's try this one. How about example number 4? What if I had -2 times 3x plus 4y? All right, so we have something outside the parenthesis, right? So we're going to distribute. We're going to take this -2 and times it by 3x. What is -2 times 3x? -6x. Very good. You just multiply the numbers in front, right? Then we take -2 times 4y. Good. -8y. So this is the perfect example of, see, we have 2 different variables. We want to write those terms in alphabetical order. So x comes before y. So that's the way we're going to write them, is x before y. All right. So the examples we've been doing cover problems 10 through 24 and problems 34 through 40. So let me just do one more from the section so we can have a little fun with it. So as I said, all problems we've been covering 10 through 24 and 34 through 40 so far. I want to throw just a little bit tougher one out of that section at you before we talk about the other problems. Let's say I have a 1/2 times by 1/2 x minus 1/2. So since it's a fraction, is it any different? Do we still do the distributive property the same? We do, right? Okay. So I'm going to start right here, and I have 1/2 times 1/2 x. 1/2 times 1/2 x. Can I do any cross reducing? Nope. So I'm just going to multiply across. 1 times 1 is 1, and 2 times 2 is 4. And I have an x. Then I have 1/2 times -1/2. Can I do any cross reducing? No. So 1 times -1 is -1, and 2 times 2 is 4. So even if it's fractions, it's done the exact same way. Nothing changes. All right. So on all of these, we've been taking and putting it together. You can also take that same distributive property and tear it apart, like put it backward, go in the other order, so to speak. So what I want to talk about is writing a fraction in distributive. All right. So what I mean by that is if we have something that looks like, I don't know, let's say 2x plus 3 over 5. So this is a fraction. We can actually distribute this bottom or the denominator to each piece. So all I'm going to ask you to do is step 1, distribute denominator to each part. So that's step number 1. So here I'm going to put 2x over 5, middle process is plus, and then 3 over 5. All I did was split it up to each part. Step number 2 is you have to check to see if you can reduce. And I'm just going to put check reducing. Can I reduce either part of that? Does the first fraction reduce at all? Does the second fraction reduce at all? Then I'm done. Okay? So here is example number 5. This is what you have to do for problems 26 through 32. Is it 6? Oh, sorry, example 6. Who said I knew how to count? I know, I'm just teasing. All right. So the directions in the section say to write each fraction as a sum or difference. So let's say I have 6x plus 3 over 9. So step 1 says distribute the denominator to each part. So we're going to take and give this 9 to each part of it. So that's step number 1. So I have 6x over 9 plus 3 over 9. Then step 2 says to check to see if you can reduce each one. Can I reduce 6 over 9? To what? Over 3. Very good. So we can reduce this to 2x over 3, right? 3 goes into both. Plus, can I reduce 3 over 9? 3 goes into 3 once. 3 goes into 9 3 times. So I get 1/3. And then that's just your answer. That's where you stop and you're all done. Okay? Brett, how you doing back there? You with us? Yeah? Okay. I just want to make sure. Every year when we do this, this question is on the test. I put one of them on the test. And every year everybody tells me I don't remember you talking about this. So I'm telling you, we're talking about it. We're making sure we know it. We're going to practice it. You guys are going to remember it. Let's try one more real quick. Let's say I have, how about 4x plus 5 over 2. So first thing we have to do is split that up, right? So I put 2 underneath each part on the top. So I have 4x over 2 plus 5 over 2. Step 2, we see if we can reduce each one. Can we reduce either one of them? Which one? The 4 over 2 reduces to just 2. So we have 2x plus. Can I reduce 5 over 2? Nope. So I have to leave it as 5 over 2. 5's an oddball. You're right. Nothing reduces with it unless it's 10 or 15. But, yeah. All right. So any questions? Okay. Next part. Don't say, oh, it's not that bad. I need to talk mental math. So even though I say mental math, I need to see your steps. I cannot read your minds yet, so I need to know what you're doing. Yet. Well, I don't know you well enough to read your mind yet. All right, so when we talk about doing mental math, if I have, let's say I have 3 times 8.25. What we're going to do is split up the second part into two things that add together that are easy for me to multiply. So I'm going to rewrite this as 3, parenthesis, 8 plus 0.25. Now I'm going to do the distributive property, right? 3 times 8 is 24. And then 3 times 0.25, how many is 3/4? 0.75, I agree. And then it's really easy to add these together. We get 24.75. Okay? So let's try this one. I'm on example 7, right? Yes. Okay, example 7 is going to cover 42 through 50, the rest of it. Use mental math, which means no calculator. That's what that means. Gonna show me what you're gonna do. So let's do something as easy as 4 times 198. All right, so we have 4 times. So that means I'm going to put 4 parentheses. Now 198 is really close to what number? 200. So I'm going to say 200 minus 2. Do you agree that's 198? Okay. Now we're going to do the distributive property. 4 times 200 is 800. And 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. So now what is 800 minus 8? 792. Exactly. Okay. How about this one? What if I had 3 times 204? How can I split up 204? Good. 200 plus 4. I completely agree with that. Now let's do the distributive property. We have 3 times 200, which is what, you guys? 600 plus 3 times 4, 12. So we get 612. Okay? That's the last few problems you have in your homework are doing this mental math. But just because it says mental, that just means no calculator. I want you to write it out, okay? Okay, so we're in our book, page 50, 10 through 50 even. Now, if there's just a little negative or a minus in front of the parenthesis, what magical number do I want you to write in there? A 1. Thank you, Brandon. Yes and yes.